And I have the pleasure now to introduce Ankit Mukhopadhyay, who I'm also excited to see on stage. I had a chance to visit with him some over the last couple of weeks when we were both at Power Exchange and another couple opportunities, and I'm really looking forward to having him be able to share his thoughts with you now this morning. He was sponsored by Dakota Electric Association and attended the 2025 NRECA Youth Tour in Washington, D.C., as well as Power Exchange last week. That experience in Washington, D.C. brings nearly 2,000 high school students from across the country together to learn about leadership and the cooperative difference. He represented Dakota Electric with distinction and was selected as Minnesota's representative for the Youth Leadership Council, which is a tremendous honor, reflects his leadership and dedication, and is why he had the opportunity to go to Nashville last week. He's a high school senior and served as the state lieutenant governor in the Youth and Government and Secretary General in the Model United Nations. He also serves as student council president and debate captain, while competing as an avid tennis player. Next fall, he plans to study political science and economics with the goal of attending law school and one day serving in public office. Please help me welcome Ankit.
Thank you. Thank you, Derek, for that amazing introduction. I'm so happy to be able to join MREA these last 2 days, and so grateful and honored to be able to stand in front of you today and share a little bit about my experience this year on the on the NRECA Youth Tour, and then on the Youth Leadership Council that I've been able to serve in the last 8 months. And so I'm from Dakota Electric, as Derek mentioned, and so the first two pictures, the first one is from the Minnesota delegation that attended, the 30 students, and the bottom is the NRECA Youth Leadership Council that I've been a part of the last 8 months. So the first opportunity that I had as a delegate was to attend Youth Tour last June. And so each co-op has their own way of selecting their students. For Dakota Electric, it was an interview process, and so I was selected. And on Youth Tour, I got to meet 30 different delegates from around the state who I had no clue of before, but we became really good friends. We got to explore our nation's capital together with over 1,800 students from across America, and we got to learn about cooperatives and their difference that they made and the impact on community. And I'll say that I got to go to Washington, D.C. in 8th grade on a school field trip, and due to the COVID restrictions and the mentality and maturity of a 13-year-old self, I didn't get much out of Washington, D.C. But Youth Tour this year really meant a lot more. The monuments that we spent years studying meant a lot more, and I got to learn more about America's complexity and how our government works. So it was truly a transformative experience for me. So our youth tour began on the Monday, June 16th. The 30 delegates came together. We met at a hotel by the airport, and I was for sure a little nervous because these are strangers to me, and we'd spent 1 week at our nation's capital. But I remember as soon as I got there, I was actually a little bit late. I think I was the last one who made it there. And so there weren't any seats left in the back, so I had to make my way up to the front. And I had that first interaction with Gail, and it was all positivity. I knew the week was going to be great. So we made our way to the airport, and when we got to the airport, we figured out that our flight was delayed. It got delayed for 4 hours, and so our original plan was to give the Youth Leadership Council speeches when we got to Washington, D.C., but because of the delay, we got to use the PA system at the airport. And so any childhood's dream was to get on that and say a few words. So the candidates for YLC, we got to use the PA system. We got a round of applause from the audience, and it was a great start to the week. And so really fun. We eventually got on the flight, and we landed in D.C. around 11 o'clock, and so it was a quick time to go to bed, and then we were excited for the next day. The first day we spent in Washington, D.C., it was a lot of monuments and sightseeing. So we began in the National Mall. We started at the World War II Memorial, and so we took a group photo. We headed down to the National Monument. We got to go through the Martin Luther King Memorial, and you always have to check out the pink cherry blossoms there. We continued our way to the Theodore Roosevelt Memorial and ended at the Jefferson Memorial. So it's a staple of Washington, D.C., and we got to walk along the paths, and so that was really great. In the afternoon, we continued to see memorials, so we ended up going to Arlington National Cemetery, and If you haven't been to Arlington, it's really cool. We got to witness the changing of the guards, which is so cool. The precision, the execution that they have, really unique, and it's amazing to see how our country has evolved throughout it. And then in the night, we got to go to a parade, actually, by the Iwo Jima Memorial, and this was conducted by the branches of the military, and it was the Army, the Navy, the Marines. They all have their own parade segment, and I played trumpet and band, so it was really insightful to see how they all had that perfect lineup and seeing a marching band come to fruition, and they performed it. But that's how the first day went. Going on to the second day, this is the day that we dressed up for the Capitol and we made our way to the United States Capitol. And for me, this was an amazing experience. I've been to the Minnesota Capitol quite a few times, and so going to the United States Capitol was really cool. We started by getting a tour of the United States Capitol, and we got to go to like the House chamber and the Senate chamber, and we got like a cool little ticket signed by our senators. So I have that in my room now, but it's really cool. And being able to see the chambers, I think it's also really cool that there's no phones allowed, and so you get to really take in that moment, which was really unique, and I loved it. After that, we got to meet with both our senators, Senator Tina Smith and Senator Amy Klobuchar, and even though the conversations were short, them taking time out of their busy schedules to come and talk to us was really cool, and we got a lot of unique perspectives from them, and so I'm really interested in it. It's something that I want to do in the future, so being able to talk to them was really cool. We then headed to the Supreme Court and the Library of Congress before it actually started to downpour at that moment. And so I'll show you a picture in a few slides, but we all had to run to the bus across the Capitol complex. Our suits got all wet, but it was definitely a fun experience. On this next slide, at night, so we were a little worried it wasn't going to happen because of the rain, but luckily we got just a little bit of delay. But a Segway tour, the best way I can explain it, is one of those Paul Blart scooters. And so we got trained on how to ride those, and then I'm happy to say I did not fall on the Segways, but we got to zoom across Washington, D.C., along the streets, along the monuments, and it was really cool seeing the monuments at night, and it was really fun. And we're really lucky. Not a lot of states get to do this, so we're really grateful for MREA to be able to give this opportunity, and we're happy we didn't get rained out. And then this one, when I was going through the photo deck, like there's a lot of great photos of us getting drenched, but I saw this one and thought I'd include it. And if you don't know who that is, that's Joe Miller of MREA. Thought I liked that, but yeah, that was a really great experience. The next day, this was Thursday at this point, and so we started the morning by going to the Washington National Cathedral, which isn't actually a well-known monument, but it's a cathedral, a really great architecture, a lot of Victorian memorials to it, and a lot of presidents have had their funerals there. So that was a great perspective, and in the middle you can see the Lego that's pictured there. Once completed, it's going to be the largest volunteer-made Lego structure in the world. So that was a really cool fact that we learned about. And so after that, we also went to the Holocaust Museum. And so the Holocaust Museum was one of my personal favorite museums on the trip. I think it's so unique being able to take in the stories and the quotes from everything that happened and take it all in. And so it was a really cool perspective. It's not on the National Mall, the Holocaust Museum, which makes it extra special. And so I'm really happy we were able to go to that. At night, we had what was called Youth Day, and this was when all the states from Youth Tour gathered in one huge room, and we had a few speakers, and then that's when the Leadership Council got to introduce themselves to the Youth Tour. And so, as you can see, I was on stage. I said a quick 10-second blurb about myself in Minnesota, and I'll show the video in a few seconds. But that was really cool. That was our first interaction with every single stand. We got to do some pin trading, so that was really fun for sure. June 20th was our last day in Washington, D.C. We started with a White House Museum tour and a few pictures. The rest of the day was spent having some free time walking through the Smithsonian museums, and so that was a really cool experience. One of my favorites was the American History Museum and seeing Lincoln's top hat and George Washington's uniform, which was really cool. And then at night, we had the final, hurrah, the dance party that they host. And so that was really cool, getting to see how some people are experts at line dancing, and we from Minnesota are not. So And then after that, the Minnesota, we have like a tradition of doing something special. We go to the Ferris wheel on National Harbor and ride it one last time. And we came back, had a little ice cream party, reflections, thank you. And then the next day, we packed it all up and we headed back home. And so this next slide, just a few highlights of Youth Tour. And we're not gonna watch the whole video, but.
Every summer, electric cooperatives across Minnesota send high school students on a week-long, all-expenses-paid trip to Washington, D.C. It's called the Electric Cooperative Youth Tour. This is your chance to travel, learn, and be inspired. You'll join nearly 2,000 other teens from across America for a one-of-a-kind adventure in our nation's capital.
So yes, it's a 4-minute video. It is on the MREA website and socials if you want to watch the whole thing. But I decided to include it because it has like my little 10-second thing on stage. And so I wanted to see that. And then these two are just pictures from our final day in Washington, D.C. Reflecting on the youth tour, I was extremely grateful for these experiences. It made me understand what co-ops are. And I'll be honest, like, I remember seeing Dakota Electric in my parents' mail and the tax bills, not knowing anything else about co-ops before the tour. And obviously, you all know what co-ops are, what they stand for, and their purpose in rural communities. But I wanted to share what I admire about co-ops and what I've learned throughout this entire year. I think all 7 principles are so unique, but the one that I resonate most with is concern for the community, number 7. For me, community is essential and very important. My community supports me every day, and I would not be the person I am today without their support. And co-ops are an incredible support system in our cities. They support our communities through economic development, youth programs, and much more. And co-ops aren't in community for profit. They provide for their members, invest in their co-op to the best it can be, and reinvest in the community. And there's truly so much more about co-ops that I've learned over this year and never would have known without Youth Tour. And so it's been a fantastic opportunity to learn about co-ops, and I hope that students after me share their appreciation for them. But Youth Tour was truly a life-changing opportunity, and I'm grateful to have had the opportunity. And I know that Youth Tour not only taught me about co-ops, but also taught me of what I'm capable of. And so as I continued, I was elected on the Youth Leadership Council, and I think I've learned a lot more about myself, my leadership styles, and actually what I'm capable of. And so if my fellow delegates were anything like me, we felt an extra responsibility after Youth Tour to do something more with our trip. And so I wanted to give back to my community, and so I realized that my role wasn't just to go on this trip, but it was about serving my co-op, my community, and my state. And so I had the responsibility as the YLC to not only represent my own co-op, but the entire state as a whole. And so this year, I've been able to develop my public speaking skills, critical thinking, leadership skills in my role as YLC. And so our journey began 1 month after Youth Tour. We went back to Washington, D.C. for what they called base camp. And so that was the first opportunity we got to meet with the 45 other delegates on the YLC. We got to hear from different NRECA directors, and then we had sessions in the White House, the Capitol, service projects, and we talked about what our responsibilities would entail of this year. So we began on July 21st, that was the Monday, we traveled in, and on my flight actually was Amy Klobuchar, and so I got a picture with her. I don't think she remembered me from June, but I was wearing the Youth Tour shirt, and I told her about what I was doing, and so I think she got a few memories back. But when we got to Washington, D.C., we met our groups, so I was in group 2, and these became like our family within the council, and so it was really cool hearing different perspectives of Youth Tour, what their lives were like from all different states, and so that was a really cool opportunity. The next day, we started our speakers. We had an abundance of speakers from communication directors to marketing to finance to business. One that really stuck out to me was Louis Finkel, who's the Vice President of Government Relations for NRECA, and so he talked a lot about his role and how he goes to Capitol Hill, advocates for NRECA, and it was really cool for me because I hope to one day be on Capitol Hill, and his message really stuck out to me. The next day, we continued department overviews. One that resonated with me was Stephen Bell, who's the Vice President of Communication, and he echoed a message of how to effectively portray your message and effectively communicate, and I really loved it. It helped with my speech. It helps with what I do today and how to effectively talk to an audience like you guys. So I really love that message. After it, we got to go to a Washington Nationals game, and it was a correspondence of how to use teamwork and how teamwork can effectively win games or create good things in the end. On the last day, July 24th, we got the opportunity to hear from NRECA CEO Jim Matheson, and so his message was he congratulated all and would tell us about this amazing year that we'd embark on, and then we started planning for our entire year and the service project and speeches that would follow, and then we said our goodbyes, and that was the last day, and we traveled home to engage in our year of service. As YLC, you had two main responsibilities. One was the service project, and then another was the speech. So for my service project, I decided to use my skills, my communication skills, and really highlight the youth tour and everything that it gave to me. And so I did an interview, answering a few questions, and with the help of Dakota Electric, we were able to produce this. So we'll watch a little bit about that. It's an all-expense-paid trip to Washington, D.C. I mean, who can't say no to that? My name is Ankit Mukhopadhyay. I'm a current senior at Egan High School, and this last summer I was selected to be on the Electric Youth Tour going to Washington, D.C. Electric's website. It's a really great resource for any co-ops. If you have any questions about Youth Tour, if you have any students have any questions about Youth Tour, feel free to play that video, put it on your website. I think it's a great resource for the future, and hopefully students find it helpful. But the second aspect or responsibility that we had was giving a speech to our local board of directors. And so my speech was titled Front of the Line, and it was a nod to my leadership skills. And I kind of spoke about how in 5th grade I lost my bus patrol badge because I always wanted to be at the front, and I actually pushed someone over to get to the front. And I talked a little bit about seeing the halls of Congress and how you always don't need to be at the front. Rather, the best leaders know when to step back, to listen, to hand the torch over, and they know when to delegate responsibilities. And so, unfortunately, I didn't get the title of national spokesperson, but it was still an amazing opportunity to be able to speak in front of my local board of directors and be able to give that speech. But those were the two main responsibilities. Additionally, I wanted to get more involved with my community in Dakota Electric, so I asked to help out at a few events. And so here you have a few pictures of me helping out at the Hy-Vee bagging, with the open door, at a Veterans Day dinner just a few weeks ago, and then giving my speech on the local directors, which was really fun. And it really, everything led to what we called almost the Super Bowl of our YLC journey at Power Exchange just last week in Nashville, Tennessee. And so it was a really great opportunity to use our leadership skills that we developed throughout the entire year and put them on display in front of 11,000 people at Power Exchange. So our week began as we all traveled back in on that Friday, March 6th. It was great to get in those laughs again with those people that we saw in DC, and so that was really cool. But our really programming started March 7th, that Saturday. We started with the tour of the Music City Center, and if you haven't been to the Music City Center, it is humongous. And I remember that getting lost quite a few times, but we also got to see the General Assembly Hall, and so I got a picture in front of, I guess, me. But in front of the Minnesota sign, and they were showing pictures. But after that, we actually went to an adventures rope course, and that was to promote teamwork again. And so my friends and I, we made the unwise decision of going with the hardest one first. And so you can see me at the top struggling a little bit, but we made it all in one piece. And then after that, we started hearing from some speakers. We learned how to effectively give an elevator pitch and talked about LinkedIn for a while. So those are always interesting and fun conversations. And then at night, we went to Broadway to have dinner at Cane's. And so Broadway and Nashville, always a highlight, that's for sure. The next day, we started the morning by meeting our board of directors and took a picture, and so that was really great, being able to talk to our state director. We then did some practicing for our General Assembly that would partake the next day, and then we headed over to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And so I'm not a huge country person, but being able to see all the history behind it, Dolly Parton's exhibit, really cool experience. And then at night, we actually had a lesson on how to effectively have an etiquette dinner, so which fork to use for your salad, how to scoop your soup. And then And then we used those skills in a co-op dinner with co-op leaders. And so I had the opportunity to have dinner with Indiana's CEO, John Cassidy. And so that was a great opportunity to connect with him, talk about it, and make sure I'm scooping the soup the right way. On March 9th was the first day of Power Exchange, and that's when our YLC responsibilities kicked off. So I started the morning by going to the hot air balloon, the Touchstone Energy Power Exchange opportunity, and so I'd never seen a hot air balloon before, so it was really cool being able to drive that. But after that, we headed to the General Assembly Hall, where we heard from a few keynote speeches, and then we had the opportunity to introduce ourselves similar to Youth Tour in front of all 11,000 people. So I gave my 10-second speech, and so that was really cool being able to do that. And we also heard from CEO Jim Matheson give his opening address. After that, we headed to breakout sessions, and as YLC, we were in charge of just managing the room, so we introduced speakers, we ran the Q&A, running microphones, so that was a really cool opportunity. I think we did about 3 that first day, and after all the business stuff, we put on our country outfits, and we actually went to a line dancing lesson. And so, there were some people that were amazing. They knew everything from the start. They were clacking their cowboy boots. Me in the back, in my summer outfit. I didn't really dress up in country, but it took me a while to figure it out, but I still don't got the stops down, but I definitely have the claps down, that's for sure. And so that's how the first day went. And then on our last day, March 10th, Tuesday, was another busy day. We started with the General Assembly opening, where we heard from the national spokesperson. We heard from Mike Parton and him giving an address. We also got to hear a keynote speech from Barry Butch Wilmore, who was, if you recall, was the American astronaut about 2 years ago who they had engine problems on their mission up to the International Space Station. And so being able to talk to him at his book signing after was really cool, and I got a photo with him. And after that, we had a few more breakout sessions, but the highlight of my day was definitely the giant expo. And so I know you guys had the reception yesterday. Imagine that like tenfold, hundreds of vendors, hundreds of free stuff. And so it was a really cool opportunity. We actually got business cards and got to hand them out to people. And so if you'd like a business card, I have a few extra. But it was a really great opportunity to do that. And then all the free stuff, you can see me walking with my friend. I didn't think about how I'd bring it back when getting all that free stuff. I made it an extra carry-on, so we brought it all back, and now it's sitting in my room. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. But after all that finished for the day, we then put on our country stuff again, and then we actually, NRECA holds a country concert by an artist every Tuesday night, and so we got to go to a Dylan Scott concert, and so that was really fun. Never been that close to in a concert before, so that was a really cool experience. And then we ended the night off with some Nashville hot chicken, as you must in Nashville, and so that was a great experience. One of the best things I think about the entire tour was meeting some co-op leaders, really amazing people to be able to talk to. So I got to talk to Jim Matheson, the CEO of NRECA. I kind of talked to him about his path from going to Congress to NRECA, and I really loved hearing his story. I also got to talk to Stephen Bell, who was the MC for the weekend, and recalling everything that he spoke about in DC, and being able to talk to him was really great. And then these two, they're actually here in the building today. So on the left, you have Derek Moe, the CEO of MREA, and I got to talk to him. And he was actually like kind of the first Minnesota person that I saw in the entire week. So it was really fun to be able to talk to him. And then that's Mike Parton, who's sitting up front, who is the president of the NRCA Board of Directors, and I had the chance to get a photo with him at the end. And so the final day, we all traveled home. We said our goodbyes. Kind of sad, but the relationships that we made on this tour, I think they're going to be lifelong. And I would never have these relationships if I didn't go to youth tour. So I'm extremely grateful to be able to go on that. And so I just want to conclude with being able to say a few thank yous. The people who deserve recognition deserve a lot more than I'm about to say, but here are a few. I want to start by thanking Dakota Electric for everything, for letting me participate on Youth Tour, supporting me through this entire year, as YLC, supporting me service projects and my community involvement. I've loved every second of it. Peggy Johnson was my main form of contact, and so thank you so much. Here at MREA, I want to thank Gail for everything that she does for Youth Tour and her tireless work. It doesn't go unrecognized, and I've had the opportunity to work with her this past year, and so I've loved every second of it. Also, I want to thank NRECA for continuing to host the Youth Tour and supporting its youth programs, and the MREA for investing in youth like me across Minnesota. Thank you to the co-ops for sending students and giving me the opportunity for students like me on this life-changing experience, unlike any other. And so, on my flight back from from Nashville, I was reflecting on this entire year, and I thought to myself, I actually applied for Youth Tour my sophomore year and didn't get in, and so I applied the following year as a junior, and it's crazy how far I've come, all the experiences that I've had and the opportunities. So I'm extremely grateful for all the support that I've received over this last year. And so I cannot thank you all enough for trusting me to serve as this year's Youth Leadership Council and Minnesota representative. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. I will definitely never forget this trip, never forget this year. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But that's all I have for today. Thank you so much.
Ankit, what an inspiration. I know I speak for the room when I say really a pleasure to get to see you up here, and you're an inspiration to all of us. So thank you so much for sharing that and doing such an excellent job. Thank you to all of you that are out at your co-ops that make Youth Tour possible. It's really a great program, and I think having an opportunity to hear from somebody and share his reflections on it really helps drive home for me how important it is to people in your community. So thank you for making all that happen.